Welcome to Dreamy Tales, a place where gentle, relaxing stories will guide you into a deep sleep. On this channel, we'll be sharing soothing stories to help you unwind and forget the worries of the day. If you enjoy these peaceful moments, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you won't miss any of our bedtime tales. Let's create a space of relaxation together each night. Now, before we dive into tonight's story, let's take a few moments to relax your body and mind. Find a comfortable spot to sit or lie down. Gently close your eyes and take a deep breath. Inhale slowly, feeling the fresh air filling your lungs, and slowly exhale, letting the tension in your body gradually melt away. Repeat this 3 more times. With each breath, feel yourself becoming more relaxed and ready to enter the magical world of stories. Now, loosen your shoulders, gently massage your face, and release any remaining tension. Pay attention to any areas in your body that still feel tight, maybe in your neck, back, or legs, and gently let them relax. Next, we'll do a short guided visualization. Imagine yourself in a beautiful garden under the night sky, with the soft moonlight shining down. You can hear the rustling of leaves in the breeze, the sound of water flowing gently in the distance. Feel the cool breeze brushing against your face. Now that your body and mind are relaxed, let's step into tonight's story. But before we begin, remind yourself that you deserve these moments of relaxation, and let go of all worries as you listen to each word. And now, as you are fully relaxed, let's begin our journey into tonight's tale. Allow my words to guide you into a world of dreams and serenity. Relax and listen slowly. The initial whispers of dawn began to seep through the resilient fabric of Elias's tent. A subtle illumination that hinted at the sun's imminent arrival. Though his eyelids remained firmly shut, a gentle warmth began to permeate the small enclosure, a comforting premonition of the day's first light. Outside, the crisp mountain air, carrying the faint scent of pine and glacial meltwater, playfully rustled the tent's outer layer, a soft, whispering symphony of the awakening wilderness. Elias's face rested comfortably against his pillow, enjoying the cool, ambient temperature that contrasted beautifully with the snug embrace of his down-filled sleeping bag, where the rest of his body remained enveloped in cozy contentment. This was the dawn of his first full day within the majestic realm of Aoraki Mount Cook National Park, a land sculpted by the relentless forces of ice and rock over millennia. Towering, snow-capped mountains, their peaks piercing the azure sky like celestial sentinels, guarded hidden valleys where striking glaciers carved their slow, inexorable paths, and peaceful alpine lakes mirrored the breathtaking scenery. The anticipation of exploring this awe-inspiring landscape bubbled within Elias, yet a profound sense of tranquility held him captive within the comforting warmth of his sleeping bag. The morning stillness was a balm to his soul, a welcome respite from the frenetic pace of everyday life. How wonderfully peaceful this morning is, Elias thought, a soft smile gracing his lips. He lingered in the quiet sanctuary of his tent, savoring the delicate transition from deep sleep to gentle wakefulness. allowing the serenity of the moment to wash over him. It was one of those rare instances where time seemed to stand still, a feeling of perfect presence that made the exact coordinates of his location momentarily irrelevant. All that mattered was the profound comfort of being present, fully immersed in the here and now. A slow, luxurious yawn stretched its way through Elias's body, and his eyelids fluttered open, revealing the soft, diffused light filtering through the tent walls. He extended his arms out from the warmth of his sleeping bag, stretching them high above his head. Each movement a gentle awakening for muscles that had enjoyed a long, peaceful night's rest under the watchful gaze of a million stars. With a contented sigh, Elias began to shift the rest of his body, pressing himself up into a seated position on his inflatable sleeping pad. His legs remained cocooned within the sleeping bag, and he moved them together, a single fluid motion reminiscent of a mermaid's tail gracefully gliding through water. He inhaled deeply, consciously straightening his spine towards the tent's ceiling, feeling a pleasant stretch along his back. As he exhaled, he gently folded his torso over his legs, deepening the stretch and releasing any lingering tension from his muscles. This was a moment of profound peace, a quiet communion with his own body and the stillness of the morning. Yet, the allure of the miraculous sunrise that he knew was unfolding outside beckoned with irresistible force. He slid his legs out of the sleeping bag, the cool air a momentary contrast to the bag's warmth, and pushed himself up, rising from the tent floor with a newfound sense of energy. Reaching for his water bottle, he untwisted the cap and took a few refreshing sips of the cool liquid, rehydrating after the night's slumber. Next, he retrieved his sturdy hiking shoes from his backpack, their familiar weight a comforting reminder of the adventures that lay ahead. One at a time, he slipped them onto his feet, the snug fit providing a sense of readiness and anticipation. He could hardly contain his excitement to step out into the crisp morning air and immerse himself in the full day of exploration that awaited him. Once his laces were securely tied, Elias got onto all fours, a childlike sense of eagerness bubbling within him, and reached for the zipper of the tent door. With a smooth, decisive movement, he pulled it open, revealing a sliver of the world outside. Ducking his head below the top of the door, Elias peeked outside for the very first time that morning. A flood of sunlight instantly filled the tent, bathing his face with its warm, golden touch. The light illuminated the majestic panorama before him, highlighting the snowy, frozen peaks of the colossal mountains and glaciers in the distance. The jagged tips of these immense peaks, still touched by the first rays of the rising sun, glowed with an ethereal luminescence, like embers holding the last vestiges of a celestial fire. The lower slopes of the mountains, however, remained shrouded in the deep shadows of the early morning, creating a dramatic contrast of light and darkness. And then his gaze fell upon Aoraki, the tallest and most revered mountain in New Zealand. Also known as Mount Cook, it stood proudly at an elevation of more than 12,200 feet. its snow-covered summit piercing the sky like a celestial spear. Elias recalled the ancient Maori legend of Aoraki. According to the story, Aoraki was a young man who voyaged across the vast southwest Pacific Ocean with his brothers. When their canoe, a magnificent waka, capsized, Aoraki and his brothers climbed atop the highest part of the upturned hull for safety. This is why one of the early names for New Zealand's South Island, in the local Ngāi Tahu dialect, was Te Waka o Aoraki, the canoe of Aoraki. Kneeling there inside his small tent, a modern-day explorer paying homage to the land's ancient narratives, Elias watched in awe as the sharp, formidable peaks of the mountain range pierced through thick stripes of clouds that drifted lazily across the panoramic vista. These clouds, like celestial brushstrokes, added a dynamic element to the already breathtaking scene. Chunky, pristine white glaciers appeared to carve their own paths through the steep, rugged cuts in the mountainsides, their icy tongues reaching down into the valleys below. In the foothills, the harsh, rocky landscape gradually softened, giving way to gentle, light green and beige snow-tussock grasslands, a unique and resilient vegetation that thrived in the challenging alpine environment. Thousands upon thousands of these bush-like clusters of grass dotted the landscape, popping up out of the ground like fluffy pom-poms, their slender blades swaying rhythmically back and forth in the gentle mountain breeze, creating a mesmerizing wave-like effect across the hillsides. It was the same hardy vegetation that cushioned Elias's footsteps as he stood up and walked out of his tent for the first time that day, his boots sinking slightly into the springy tussocks. Around him, the grassland was interspersed with smooth gray rocks, remnants of ancient glacial activity, and the iconic Mount Cook buttercup, a perennial plant with glossy green spoon-shaped leaves that seemed to capture and reflect the sunlight. Elias knew that later in the spring and summer these buttercups would be adorned with delicate, pristine white flowers, transforming the grassland into a seemingly endless expanse of white, resembling a fresh blanket of snow. By this time, the sun had ascended further in the sky, its warm presence now gracing the entirety of the national park, casting long, dancing shadows across the valleys and illuminating every crevice and peak with its golden light. Elias poked his head back into the tent for a moment, his eyes squinting slightly in the bright sunlight to retrieve his sunglasses and his packed hiking bag for the day's adventure. He had made sure to include plenty of layers of clothing, having heard that the weather in this alpine region could change with remarkable speed, shifting from sunny and mild to cold and blustery in a matter of minutes. On his way out, he zipped up his little tent with a contented smile, securing his temporary home base. He knew that when he returned here later that day, weary but fulfilled, it would be time to bid good night to the majestic mountains and drift off to sleep under their silent, watchful gaze. But for now, his focus was on the adventure that lay ahead. He was embarking on his first day hike of the trip, a journey along the renowned Hooker Valley Track, a 6-mile out-and-back trail that promised uninterrupted panoramic views of the surrounding peaks and glaciers, culminating at the stunning Hooker Lake. Elias had learned that Hooker Lake was a relatively recent geological feature, having begun to form in the 1970s as the nearby Hooker Glacier began its slow but steady retreat, a visible manifestation of the changing climate. The lake, fed by the meltwater of the glacier, was known for its pristine beauty and the dramatic icebergs that often floated on its surface. The Hooker Valley Track was also famous for its iconic suspension bridges, which swayed gently above the rushing turquoise waters of the Hooker River, and its several strategically placed lookout points that offered breathtaking perspectives of the surrounding landscape. Elias had heard from fellow travelers that this hike was an absolute must-see on any trip to Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. Conveniently, the trailhead was located just a short distance from his campsite, making for an easy and pleasant start to his day. Elias made his way towards it with a sense of purpose, a wide smile on his face, occasionally waving hello to the few neighboring campers he passed along the way. Like him, they seemed to be utterly captivated by the glorious mountain sunrise that was unfolding before their very eyes, painting the sky with hues of pink, orange, and gold. Already, even before reaching the official start of the trail, Elias could understand why this was considered one of the most popular hikes in all of New Zealand. As soon as he stepped onto the well-maintained path, he was immediately greeted by breathtaking views that stretched as far as the eye could see. The stark contrast between the pristine white of the snow-capped southern Alps, their jagged peaks reaching towards the heavens, and the deep, vibrant green of the tussock grass in the foreground was simply stunning, a visual feast that filled him with awe and wonder. There was no sign of human development in sight, no roads, no buildings, just the raw, untamed beauty of nature in all its majestic glory. Overhead, the sky had transformed into a brilliant expanse of clear, unblemished blue, not a single cloud remaining to mar the perfect canvas. The silence in this vast wilderness was unlike anything Elias had ever experienced before. It was a profound, almost palpable silence, so complete that something as simple as his own breathing sounded surprisingly noisy in comparison, a reminder of his presence in this otherwise undisturbed realm. Even the gentle crunching of his hiking boots on the gravel path created a miniature echo that seemed to amplify the stillness. After a short while, Elias approached a historic landmark situated just off the side of the trail. It was a large, weathered boulder with a signboard affixed to it, clearly indicating that this was Frida's Rock. On the sign was a black and white photograph of a woman dressed in a skirt, practical climbing pants, and a sturdy blouse standing proudly beside the boulder. Her hand rested confidently on its rough surface, and she gazed off to one side with an expression that conveyed both pride and unwavering determination. In her other hand, she held what appeared to be a traditional ice axe, a tool of her mountaineering trade. Reading the inscription on the sign, Elias learned the inspiring story of Frida du Faur, who had made history as the first woman to successfully climb Mount Cook on December 3, 1910. Her achievement was a testament to her courage, skill, and indomitable spirit, breaking barriers and inspiring generations of female mountaineers. Back on the path, Elias continued his hike towards Hooker Lake, Frida's remarkable feat resonating within him. He couldn't help but feel a faint echo of the same pride and thrill that Frida must have experienced while posing for that photograph after her exhilarating and arduous journey up and down the tallest mountain in the country. Her image served as a powerful reminder of the human capacity for perseverance and the profound connection that can be forged through challenging oneself in the face of nature's grandeur. Lost in thought, Elias continued his steady pace along the trail. After a while, he realized that he had completely lost track of time, his mind wandering through a landscape of reflections and anticipations. His feet carried him forward, one step after the other, moving with an almost unconscious rhythm down the well-trodden path. As he weaved through the valley, surrounded by towering peaks and the vast expanse of the sky, Elias felt a sense of tranquility wash over him, almost as if he were being gently hypnotized by the repetitive motion of his legs and the serene beauty of his surroundings. The trail was mostly flat and gently undulating, leaving him with plenty of energy to drift in and out of daydreams, his mind free to roam and explore the landscapes of his imagination. At one moment, he imagined himself looking down upon his own small figure from the vantage point of one of the gigantic glaciers that clung to the sides of the mountains. How incredibly small and insignificant he would appear from such a height. A mere speck against the vastness of the natural world. Snapping himself out of his reverie, Elias paused for a moment on the path, allowing his own pace to slow down and match the unhurried rhythm of the nature around him. Without the persistent crunch of his hiking boots on the gravel, he could clearly hear the sound of his own heartbeat, a steady, reassuring pulse that reminded him of the journey he had already undertaken and the incredible sights he had already witnessed. But then, that familiar internal rhythm was subtly interrupted by a sound in the background that he didn't immediately recognize. To Elias, it sounded like the call of a bird that belonged in a more tropical environment, perhaps a lush rainforest, rather than here amidst the stark beauty of this alpine scenery. He tilted his head with curiosity, his senses alert, and looked around to see if he could spot the source of the unusual vocalization. Ahead, his gaze landed on a clearly marked lookout point, a slightly elevated area that jutted out from the main trail. Surely, he thought, there will be a nice, flat rock there where I can rest for a while, grab a quick snack from my bag, and perhaps pull out my guidebook to do a little digging on what kind of animal might make such a distinctive sound. The prospect of a short break and the potential for a wildlife encounter added a new layer of excitement to his hike. The lookout point offered a stunning vista overlooking Mueller Lake a body of water unlike any Elias had ever encountered before. It wasn't the typical vibrant blue of glacial lakes, nor the deep green of forest-rimmed waters, and it certainly wasn't the muddy brown of some lowland lakes. Instead, it possessed a unique and captivating hue, a beautiful and almost ethereal combination of all three colors, a testament to the mineral-rich meltwater that fed it. As Elias stood there, admiring the breathtaking view in front of him, a thick, almost ethereal mass of fog began to roll in across the valley, its tendrils snaking around the mountain peaks and obscuring the distant views. Momentarily, the air around him began to feel noticeably more humid, the moisture clinging to his skin and clothing. He undid the straps of his backpack from around his waist and chest, relieving the pressure, and set it down gently on the ground so he could remove the light jacket he was wearing. The change in temperature and the increasing humidity made the extra layer feel unnecessary. Even through the swirling fog, Elias could still make out the imposing form of Hooker Glacier in the distance, beyond the still waters of Mueller Lake, and a series of smaller, jagged peaks that led the eye upwards towards the now partially obscured summit of Mount Cook. The great mountain, which had been so clearly visible just moments before, was now almost completely hidden by the swirling brush strokes of gray and white in the sky, adding an air of mystery and intrigue to the landscape. While this particular lookout point offered incredible panoramic views, Elias noticed that there wasn't really anywhere particularly comfortable to sit down and enjoy a prolonged rest. His gaze drifted behind him, and he spotted a large, flat-topped rock in the distance that looked as if it had been perfectly placed for weary hikers. As he made his way over to it, he walked through an almost invisible curtain of mist, the fine droplets of moisture gently sprinkling his face, chest, and arms with a refreshing coolness. It felt invigorating on his skin, a welcome sensation after the exertion of the hike. Once he reached the big rock, Elias gratefully took a seat, the smooth surface surprisingly warm from the sun that had preceded the fog. He reached into his backpack, pulled out a nutritious energy bar, and grabbed his handy guidebook, its pages filled with information about the flora and fauna of the region. He was still determined to identify the creature that had produced that strange, almost tropical-sounding call earlier. As he flipped through the pages, a movement in the air caught his eye. In front of him, he saw the silhouette of a bird flying directly towards him. It was an unusual shape, its flight pattern distinct. Eventually, it landed gracefully on the ground a short distance away, its feet, which had a somewhat reptilian appearance with strong claws, finding purchase on the rocky terrain. The bird looked at Elias with two small, intelligent eyes, its head cocking from side to side several times with an air of curious assessment. Then it hopped around, its attention now focused on the tranquil expanse of Mueller Lake. Elias observed its plumage with fascination. Near its head, the feathers were a muted olive brown, gradually transitioning to a lighter shade down its body, culminating in a brilliant lime green at its tail, a vibrant splash of color against the gray backdrop of the fog. A striking, sunny orange color framed its black eyes, giving it a distinctive and somewhat mischievous expression, and also adorned its powerful beak, which curved sharply at the top, resembling a hook. Before Elias could fully process this unexpected encounter, the first bird was soon joined by another of its kind, appearing seemingly out of the swirling mist. As the second bird came in for a landing, Elias was treated to an even more spectacular display of color on its wings. It was a breathtaking combination of vibrant orange, sunny yellow, and the same brilliant lime green, arranged in an intricate and symmetrical pattern on both sides of its wings. A true masterpiece of natural artistry. The vivid colors of these birds stood out in stark contrast against the predominantly gray background of the foggy and mysterious Mount Cook, creating a scene that felt almost surreal. For a while, Elias simply watched in quiet amazement as the two birds seemed to interact with one another, their movements playful and their calls soft and chirping. Their beaks moved up and down as they walked around each other, their heads bobbing, almost as though they were engaged in an in-depth conversation in their own unique avian language. Before long, their soft chirps escalated into louder, more assertive squawks, and Elias suddenly realized that this was the same cheerful, almost tropical-sounding noise he had heard earlier near the trailhead. The mystery of the unfamiliar bird call was finally solved. Eager to learn more about these fascinating creatures, Elias turned to his guidebook, flipping through the pages dedicated to the park's diverse bird life. To his surprise, he discovered that there were more than 40 different species of birds that called this area home. He read about the famed kea, New Zealand's only alpine parrot, known for its intelligence, curiosity, and mischievous nature. The guidebook described its soft, olive-brown feathers and its distinctive orange underwings, as well as its bold and determined gaze. He also learned about the southern black-backed gull, widely known as the kelp gull, a common sight along the coastlines of New Zealand and even found in parts of Antarctica, its sturdy build and piercing cry echoing across the landscape. And then, finally, he found the name of the bird that was currently perched just a few feet away from him, its bright colors a beacon in the mist. It was the key parrot, a species he now knew was renowned for its curious and intelligent behavior and its lack of shyness around humans, often approaching people with a bold and inquisitive attitude. Elias watched the pair of key parrots for a few more moments, thoroughly enjoying their playful antics and their vibrant presence, before turning his attention back to the majestic mountains in the background. The fog had begun to dissipate slightly, and once again, the jagged peaks of the mountain range were peeking through the lines of white clouds, which were slowly making their way across the vast expanse of the sky, carried by the gentle mountain winds. It was a scene reminiscent of the sunrise he had witnessed earlier, but now the color scheme had shifted to a mesmerizing swirl of blues and grays. The soft, diffused light, creating a different but equally captivating atmosphere. The natural beauty of this landscape, with its ever-changing interplay of light, clouds, and mountains, filled Elias with a profound sense of inner peace. He realized that everything he needed, and perhaps everything he was seeking in that moment, was already present here, all around him, in the silent grandeur of the mountains, the still surface of the lake, the drifting clouds, and even in the vibrant presence of the Kia parrots. The mystery and ancient power of the glaciers, those slow-moving rivers of ice, gave him a sense of awe and a touch of the sublime, a feeling akin to the emotions evoked by a beautifully timeless piece of music. As a small group of hikers approached the lookout point, their voices a gentle murmur in the stillness, Elias decided that it was a good time for him to continue on his own journey. He stood up from the rock, clicked the straps of his backpack back together, ensuring a comfortable fit, and set off once more along the Hooker Valley track, his heart filled with gratitude for the beauty he had already witnessed. Soon, the trail led him to the first of the iconic swing bridges, a long, elegant structure that hovered above the rushing waters of the Hooker River, its color a striking shade of light green, almost luminous in the filtered sunlight. Walking across the bridge, which swayed gently with each step, made Elias feel light and buoyant, adding a playful spring to his step. The sound of the churning water below was a constant reminder of the powerful natural forces at play in this landscape. He followed the winding trail over another suspension bridge, the landscape continuing to unfold before him in a series of breathtaking vistas. He slipped his light jacket on and off as the weather continued its unpredictable dance, shifting between moments of sunshine and the cool embrace of the lingering fog. Just when Elias thought he had witnessed the most astounding view yet, he would turn a corner in the trail, and another pristine alpine lake would appear before him, each one leaving him even more breathless than the last with its striking and unique shade of bright blue, emerald green, or deep teal, their surfaces reflecting the towering peaks like giant natural mirrors. Mount Cook, which Elias had been able to see intermittently since the start of his hike, now loomed larger and larger in his field of vision, its majestic presence growing more imposing with each step as he drew closer and closer to his ultimate destination, Hooker Lake. Shortly after crossing the last of the swing bridges, the trail finally began its gentle descent towards the end of the valley. Here, the upper reaches of the lake offered a clear and unobstructed view of the great mountain, its snow-covered summit reaching towards the sky, and the jagged, saw-tooth peaks of its smaller but equally impressive neighbors, their rocky faces scarred by millennia of wind and ice. Hooker Lake lay nestled at the very foot of the Hooker Glacier, its waters so incredibly clear that they perfectly reflected the dramatic natural scenery that framed it, creating a seamless blend of reality and mirrored image. Scattered across the surface of the lake were numerous icebergs, ranging in size from that of a small pebble to as large as a car, floating ever so slowly in the still water, as if embarking on a peaceful and aimless rafting trip. Elias imagined himself sitting atop one of these miniature iceberg rafts, drifting lazily across the crystal-clear water without a care in the world. The silence broken only by the occasional creak of the ice and the distant sounds of the mountains. In between moments of profound and awe-inspiring silence, Elias could hear the powerful whooshing sound of snow and ice occasionally tumbling down from the steep sides of the glacier in the distance. A raw and visceral reminder of the immense forces at work in this dynamic environment. He made his way closer to the edge of the lake and stepped up onto a medium-sized flat rock that jutted out into the water. Standing there, surrounded by such immense natural beauty, Elias felt very small and insignificant in comparison to the towering mountains, the vast expanse of the lake, and the ancient presence of the glacier. But it was a pleasant feeling, a humbling perspective that paradoxically provided him with an immense sense of freedom. A liberation from the confines of his everyday concerns. Any mental burdens or worries that he had been carrying before seemed to have been lifted in this pristine and awe-inspiring environment, as if the very air itself had the power to cleanse his mind. He closed his eyes for a moment, welcoming another daydream, allowing his imagination to soar. This time, he envisioned himself once again on top of one of those gigantic glaciers, a vast and seemingly endless expanse of snow and ice, its surface crisscrossed with hundreds of deep crevices of various sizes and shapes, a testament to the glacier's slow but powerful movement. His only company in this frozen wilderness was the silent presence of the neighboring peaks, their majestic forms piercing the sky. Looking down, he could see the floating icebergs on Hooker Lake far below, appearing as tiny white specks on the dark blue water, and pockets of incredibly bright turquoise water trapped within the glacial ice. To gain an even better perspective, he imagined himself soaring above the alpine landscape, like one of the key parrots he had encountered earlier, gliding effortlessly through the air. From this aerial vantage point, he traced the line of the Hooker Valley Trail from its very beginning to its end. A winding ribbon of wooden boardwalks and sections of gravel that twisted and turned with the gentle curves of the valley. A testament to the human desire to explore and experience this incredible landscape. He opened his eyes, the crisp mountain air invigorating his senses, and found himself back on the rock at the edge of Hooker Lake, gazing out at the majestic form of Mount Cook and the nearby floating icebergs. For several moments, he did nothing but stand there, absorbing the beauty and the silence, embodying the strength and enduring patience of the mountains and glaciers that surrounded and towered above him. It felt comfortable, natural even, to simply be in this place, fully present in the moment. In fact, it felt as though he had returned to a more authentic version of himself, stripped away from the distractions and pressures of modern life. He turned his face towards the sky, feeling the welcome warmth of the sun as it revealed itself once again after a long period of hiding behind a bank of clouds. He didn't know how long the sunshine would last this time, given the fickle nature of mountain weather. But he resolved to enjoy it fully and soak in every precious minute. He could feel the sun's rays slowly warming his body, one cell at a time, a gentle reminder of the life-giving energy of the natural world. And he recalled the incredible adventure he had been on since the very first subtle signs of sunrise had appeared outside his tent that morning. To this very moment, standing at the edge of this pristine glacial lake, surrounded by unparalleled beauty. He took a deep breath in, filling his lungs with the crisp, clean mountain air, and then slowly let it out, releasing all his cares and worries into the vastness of the open air. And then, with a final, lingering glance at this spectacular view, a scene that would forever be etched in his memory, Elias turned and began the hike back home to his tent, his heart filled with gratitude and anticipation for a restful night spent in the embrace of nature.